This episode is brought to you by America's Christian Credit Union, where your money grows and your values thrive.
Well, it turns out that if you're a cancer doctor and you see a patient 2 or 3 times a month for a year or more during one of the most emotionally demanding periods of their life, it's sort of like being with someone and your plane crashed in the mountains and you spent a year of making your way back to civilization. You create a bond. And also, I was the smart one in the room, so to speak. And so they wanted me to give them existential answers. What's going to happen to me? And I didn't have any answers. And I realized you can't keep copping out. You should have an answer. And it was at about this time where I've been doing this for 20 years that I realized in the late 90s. See, back in the 70s, they said, well, the scientific atheists said, well, we know what DNA is, and we know how cells work, and we know it's all genetics and chemical. But there are a number of things we don't quite understand, the complexities that we need to sort out. And then we'll write one big chemical equation for life, and then all of you people can turn your churches into department stores because that's all they're good for. And if you believe in God, you believe in only because of the gaps in our knowledge, called the God of the gaps. You probably are familiar with that term. So in the late 90s, I said, well, I've been so busy studying and working and raising a family. I said, if I'm going to answer these questions, I need to go back to the unanswered questions of 1975 and see what answers have been given, because I wasn't really studying basic science anymore. I was just being a doctor, giving medicine to people and checking their lab results. And somewhat to my surprise, when I went back, I found out that the gaps had exploded. That what they thought was a very simple thing turned out to be a complexity beyond imagination. And that the little gaps that were supposed to have been closed by 1999 had expanded into these vast canyons that were insurmountable to traverse. What's going on here? What did I miss? And so I just dug deeper and deeper until I realized what I had just told you a few minutes ago about the seduction of easy explanations to complex problems and how I had fallen into that. And one of the things about me that I was never willing to surrender was my intellectual integrity. And I don't mean to sound like a snob. I'm just a person who wants to know the truth. And I had a very rigorous education. And I said, well, what's really going on here? And the more I read, there is this saying, this guy, I'm not going to use his name, but he said, there's enough evidence now that I can be an intellectually fulfilled atheist. Well, now, what's happened in the past 20 years is that we now can be intellectually fulfilled believers in Jesus Christ, because all the science of the last 25 years points right back to the God of Abraham, period. I mean, I was just at an annual meeting with Discovery Institute last weekend, and we were saying, it's not even possible to doubt this. It's just like, if we're back to 1940 when everyone said, yeah, of course there's a God. Well, yeah, of course. How can there not be a God? There's a sun up there, and there's water and everything, and everyone understood simple things. Anyway, so about this time, I was coming out of my atheist delusions, scientific atheism delusions, and realizing the joy of affirming for people their faith. And it turned out really that they didn't want much more from me than that. They just wanted affirmation, So if you go, I use this other metaphor. If you go to church or synagogue or temple or mosque every Sunday or Saturday, and the person up there says, well, there's a God and these are the commandments and you must do this and that. You go, yeah, okay, well, you're getting paid to say that. And I appreciate you saying it. And I'm glad you're up there doing it. But we're the choir and you're preaching to us. So good for you. But what do the really smart people think? Like Stephen Hawking and all these guys are on TV telling us that if you believe in God, you're stupid. And so for the smart guy, meaning me, the scientist, to say science proves God, not the other way around, it's very affirming to them. They don't have to know the science. I mean, they can if they want to. They can read my book, but they just want to know that the guy or the gal who studied the science said, yeah, actually, the science points right back to God.